Boom.
Okay, we are live and live action, and I am here. I'm actually really excited today to be doing this broadcast with a good friend of ours, Joel Perso, who has a tremendously interesting story of success in real estate and the lessons learned that we're going to talk about, especially at this time of year, going into a new year. I'm super excited to be on here with you, Joel. And I want to introduce John Kitchens. Most of you probably know John Kitchens, but John, you actually coached, and maybe still are coaching actually, from a leadership standpoint, Joel over the years and been working with him for a long time. And, John is a coach that, coaches for our company, Kinder Reese Coaching, and runs that whole entire company. And basically, John made me aware of his numbers not too long ago. And I have to talk about it every time I'm on a live with John, because it just makes it so much more clear why he's such a great coach. But, the average person that John coaches with does about $1.5 million in GCI, which is a lot of GCI. It's great. But how many calls have you coaching calls have you done now, John?
It's over 9,000. So
9,000 coaching calls. You might learn a thing or two over 9,000 coaching calls. If you've ever done anything 9,000 times, I promise you're going to be pretty good at it. So just incredible the amount of experience here on this live, and it's going to be a great interview, if you will. Talking about the things, the lessons learned, and really growing a successful real estate business, to growing a successful team, to growing a successful company, and really building something of value over time. And I'm really excited to have this conversation. Joel, how are you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, let's start with, kind of your background. Obviously, you have your real estate, team now that you've been, building for the last, I don't know, maybe year or two. And but you've had a lot of experience, prior to that. Why don't you talk a little bit about kind of your story and kind of as you've evolved as a leader and helping agents become successful. What's what are some things that you've learned along the way, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in real estate about 7 years. I'm probably one of your few guests on here who's never been in sales full time. So I've been licensed since the beginning, but always on the operational side. So my very first job was contract to close for a real estate team. And I was the only non-salesperson, non-high I person on that team. So it sort of naturally fell to me to absorb more and more operational, financial, strategic, and then ultimately leadership duties. And that was the first 5 years of my real estate career. So going from contract to close to ultimately ending up at taking our team independent, co-founding that team and growing it to about 400 units in the second year we were there. So my story was just kind of a progression along with that growth of our team, growing in terms of learning about business, learning about financial management, learning about strategy, and then, like I said, ultimately learning a little bit about leadership, and a lot of that from you guys. So I've seen, from 6 people all the way up to over 30, from just under 100 transactions all the way up to 400 in this, the space of about 4 years there. So we've had some fast growth, some chaotic times, awful lot of mistakes. You guys were there for a lot of them too, to coach us through them. But yeah, it's really been an incredible, journey for me so far. I feel fortunate to have those experiences.
Absolutely. It's always, you got to fall in love with the journey. And, you said something before we got on here is, there's not a situation that you've been through that, that you look at, as it was a negative experience, which is just a testament to your self leadership and leadership as a whole, because it really is. It's always how you react to a situation. There's nothing you can do about the things that happen. There's only the only thing you control is how you react to it. So I love your mindset and looking at all these experiences. And obviously, having seen that kind of growth, I guess my question would be, my first question would be, and really just to the benefit of anybody who's watching, is, what did you see that really leads to success? Obviously you're coming from the operational side of things, And that's a really different perspective for a lot of us high ID leaders that are building teams. We sometimes don't necessarily understand the importance of that perspective. And sometimes we don't want to listen to that perspective, but it's like absolutely, critical. But, having that perspective or coming from either side, I guess, angle wise of what you've seen, what leads, what truly leads or has led to the exponential growth, in your opinion, the ability to manage it? What are some of the lessons learned that really stand out to you, that help an agent become super successful in any environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. A few things, especially in the team environment, and we've seen this over and over again. I think we've probably seen this in the mastermind a lot. Is if you're not either taking the time to step out of the day to day, Jocko calls it that 10,000 foot view, looking over the battlefield. If you're not doing that, or if you don't have somebody to help you do that, you can get really inefficient and really ineffective in a lot of areas of your business without ever knowing it. So the number one thing that I did early on was just start tackling the things that somebody on the team, and especially our team leader, were doing at a high level, and turning what he did just into a system or a process, documenting it, putting it down on paper, training whoever needs to be trained on it so that we can duplicate it again. There's so many things that we were able to do really quickly just because we turned it into a system and a process, when it used to be just done on the fly whenever it needed to be done. So that was the biggest thing that I did early on, was just, let's turn his methods into systems, and we can replicate those for the rest of our team, or just operationally to get faster and more efficient. But if you're not either stepping out to look down on it, or having somebody who can do that with you, it's hard. It's hard to see those blind spots. They're blind spots for a reason. So, so that was a huge one. And then, I think this applies even if you're on your own or have a small team, all the way up to any size company. But one of the things that we did right that I'm really proud of is we spent a ton of time and energy focusing on the company culture. We dove deep on our core values. We got clear on, why we existed, who we wanted to be as a company, the impact that we wanted to make. And we intentionally developed our company to reflect those things. And that's a thing that we got right. We got lots of things wrong, but that's something we got right. We had a cool mural of our core values, and that looked great. But what I'm most proud of is they were part of the daily conversation of our team. We led with them. The team adopted them. And it made it a really special place to work for a while. So that's a huge one, is getting clear on that. I think it starts with the values, starts with the purpose, and what's the vision, and then that translates into how does the day-to-day conversation support those values and that vision, and then obviously that's a decision-making framework then for not only day-to-day but strategically as well. And then, this has been the last thing that was a focus to me, but learning about leadership, reflecting on mistakes in leadership, having, a good leader to look up to, good coaches like you guys to help us through those things. But, for the beginning of my career, I would have been very happy to totally stay in the background, not talk to people most of the time. I'll work on this project or that project, or, I'll handle it all. But our team and our company eventually grew to a size where that wasn't an option for me anymore. I needed to step out, be visible, be vocal, and ultimately take a much bigger role in leadership. And so I was fortunate to have lots of resources, and fortunate to have a great culture in our company that provided some leeway for me as I was learning to be a leader and making missteps along the way. So. But that's it all starts with leadership, for sure.
No doubt. That's awesome. So John, having coached Joel through the last several years, what I know I'm assuming you may have a question or two or something that you want to kind of drag out into the conversation. What's something you have for Joel?
John's got all the dirt. So.
Yeah, the big thing that I see, and Joel nailed it right, is just that continuous growth on the leadership side of things, and really stepping out and really focusing on that. I'm just curious, through that, from the operational viewpoint, what were like some of the key bumps in the road, lessons learned that, really shaped your decision-making to where, it's like, dang, I've got to grow as a leader. So, I would love for you to kind of share those because, you and I have had tons of conversations around this. Mm-hmm. So I would love for you to kind of share what some of those experiences that you saw that really shaped, your progression and the growth to where you're at today.
Yeah, sure. I think most of them, and we talked about this on our expert mentors broadcast we did, but most of them are around communication. So I think I'm continually surprised, and shouldn't be anymore, but how much communication, how thorough of communication is needed for a company and a culture to thrive. And it just has to come from the leaders, has to come from the leaders personally. Posting announcements in a group Facebook page is cool, but as leaders, we need to be visible. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. And I think one of my biggest takeaways from some of the mistakes we made early on in our company was the team needs to be heard too. It doesn't mean it's a vote. It doesn't mean that everybody gets a say, but everybody needs to have a voice. In 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni talks about, building consensus, and people can get on board with the decisions that are made and the direction that you're going if they have a chance to share what they think about it. Even if they disagree, they'll get on board if they have a venue to share what they think, feeling heard, feeling included, feeling valuable. And that was such a big get for me from doing that the wrong way of saying, I think we made a good decision here. Here's what it's going to be. Along with that is including people who that decision will affect, including them in the discussion. And something you said, John, to me was, yes, include everybody, but you also might get great feedback or another great idea or learn something that changes the decision anyway. So much about leadership is communication. Dan, my old partner, used to say leadership is communication. And he used to say that all the time. And I think, to a large degree, he was spot on with that. So those are my big ones is you almost can't over communicate to your team. But you have to there has to be a venue for people to share what they're thinking as well. So that's, most of the big mistakes I think I made were either lack of or poor communication. People need to understand why, and you have to communicate why. They're not going to grasp it like you grasp it. They weren't involved in that. They don't have the experience that led you to make that decision. So people need to understand why. And if they do, again, people will get on board with stuff, even if they don't necessarily agree.
That's the alignment piece, right? That's the alignment piece. So it's just even, the first thing you talked about there was the direction. And then now, you just shared, the communication to get everybody in alignment. I would love for you, cuz if you've got anything else to throw in, Joel being on the operational side, I would love to talk a little bit business model, cuz he's gone through a couple different models, and he can definitely share the experience and pros and cons from the business model side of things.
I want to preface that with one thing. If you're watching, you're going to want to hang in here because we're very eloquently delivering some content to you in a way that maybe you haven't seen an opportunity that you're going to want to hang in here to kind of see this all tied together, because it really is it is quite fascinating to kind of go through this process. So yes, absolutely, Joel, tell us. We were just talking about alignment and the importance of that, within a company and the success and the culture of a real estate team. And 100%, there is a misalignment in the team model to what the agents want and what the owner or the team leader wants in terms of the compensation model. And, as a company, you want to be profitable. You want to retain as much of the commission as you can so you can be profitable. As the agent, you just want all the money. So it's not, so what we're describing here is you've been through and developed a culture that for as much as it can be made up for, created some alignment or at least an environment that allowed that company to do really well, and be very successful. Which obviously is it doesn't change the model. The model doesn't make the model right, but it can perform at a maximum, at a certain efficiency level, which you guys were able to do that with the companies you've been involved with. So yeah, so talk a little bit about business model, and then let's kind of bridge the gap to what originally caught your eye with EXP, and then how what made you finally make that switch over as it relates to that, and then ultimately you guys have been at EXP now 6 months, so I think you have a hey, here's how here's what our thinking was, and here's what our thinking is moving forward. So I think that'll be a great transition.
Yeah, I love it. So I mean, at its most kind of fundamental, we were a team. So even when we were a brokerage, independent brokerage, we were doing about 400 units a year, well over 2 million in GCI. We were a creative team. We were, maybe a little bit innovative. I'm really proud of a lot of the solutions we came up with to solve some of the problems. But at our core, we functioned pretty much like a traditional team. We had a rainmaker at the top who eventually was able to step out of production. We had a bunch of agents, and we provided a lot of value, or what we thought we were providing a lot of value, in exchange for taking 50% of every agent's transaction. So we did some creative things. Like I said, right from the get-go, our agents were buyers and listings. We never separated that. We were a prospecting team. We were a highly accountable team. And so our model was bringing talented people from outside of real estate. And our kind of experiment was how fast could we get a great, driven, motivated, intelligent person up to 5 million in production. That was our big goal. We wanted to make an impact on our market and potentially the real estate industry at a large scale. The reason we got connected with you guys in the first place is because you were talking about all the same problems we were talking about. Lack of leadership, lack of accountability, poor per agent production all across the country. All of these things, we were talking about the same things on our team. Dan's been talking about those things for decades probably. And so we said, all right, well, how are we going to solve these things? And what we came up with was trying to provide as much value as we can. So the issue is not the commission. The issue is your lifestyle as an agent and how much money you're taking home. And so what does that translate into our company? Well, we had licensed transaction managers. So an agent handed off a deal after the offer was accepted and wasn't involved again until closing. So freeing up a big part of an agent's time to go prospect, go close more deals. So they negotiated inspections, appraisals, all those things. So that was, again, not necessarily innovative, because contract to close on a team is nothing, new. But, we tried something a little different and had some success with it. So we had some incredibly talented staff people on our team, helping add value back to the agents. But we had a great CRM. We had great lender partners. We invested a ton of money in buyer lead gen. At its peak, about 20 grand a month in buyer lead gen. Had great systems for follow-up, decent systems for speed of response, highly accountable. And so we were very, very successful with growing our business primarily through buyer lead generation. We didn't have ISAs. Our agents did the prospecting themselves. We added marketing staff. We added HR staff. We added, kind of general admin staff. So we ended up, with about 20 agents and about 10 staff. And the challenge that we saw as we grew was, production's increasing, production per agent is increasing, profitability is not increasing. So, we're diving back into, the model at 10 people versus the model at 30 people. And the truth is that you can grow a team, but you can't scale a team. The team model doesn't scale when it's built that way. You can grow. It can become a lot of agents. It can become, very, very productive, but it doesn't scale. And ultimately, that's what we wanted out of our business was scalability.
So unpack that. So when you say it doesn't scale, there's a bunch of team people that are watching this video right now with teams going, okay, I know he's right, but why? Well, like, I get it. I feel that. I feel like it doesn't scale, but so unpack why it doesn't scale.
Yeah, I guess, and what I mean by scale is the biggest difference between growing and scaling for me is it's predictability and repeatability. Um, in order to scale, you should be able to do it as fast as you want to. That's what scaling means to me. It means we've nailed the model to the point that we can either repeat it, replicate it, or just blow it up now as fast as we want to. We've fixed the bottlenecks. Now we're scaling. You can grow without solving all the problems. That's not the issue here. We didn't want to just grow though. We wanted to scale. So and another big piece of scaling, I think, is the financial model shouldn't change as it grows. Otherwise, it's growth. It's not scaling. So the biggest things that we missed, and I'm not sure, if we looking back on it, if we could have made better decisions, but it's really difficult to scale buyer lead generation. Accountability becomes more difficult. We had to hire a sales manager who's a salaried position. That's payroll that we didn't anticipate. The accountability piece, becomes, way more complicated. So that was a big one. We bought up all the good zip codes on Realtor.com and Zillow, and then, we started taking anything we could get. So we spread ourselves too thin. We did a lot of business, but we didn't have a really strong brand because we had to keep, as we added agents and needed more leads, we had to keep spreading out geographically as well, buying up all the zip codes. Cost per click, is fluid. That doesn't stay the same. So that affects the financial model. And then on the staff side, it is really hard to predict when you've committed to adding a ton of value and your agents are doing the math on every transaction about what am I getting for my 50%. You have to keep adding value because now we have agents doing 20 million in production on their own, doing the math and saying that's an awful lot of money, and I could hire my own assistant and get my own CRM and probably hire my own ISA too and still come out ahead. So we're adding more staff to try to add more value, more marketing, more administrative help, and so we're doing that because of that pressure that the keeping your best people just naturally puts on the business model. And then in addition to that, it's hard to predict when you're going to need more help or support in other areas of the business. When are we going to need a full-time recruiter? When are we going to need, an assistant for that agent? When are we going to need HR help? When are we going to need to bring our accounting in-house? And getting those things right, predicting when that's going to happen is really hard, really hard. And so we ended up with ballooning payroll that was growing faster than our profits were growing. And 2 million in GCI and less profitable than we were when we were 1 million in GCI.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I've definitely heard that before. You gonna say something, John?
No, I mean he's so spot on. I mean, and everybody thinking that they want to scale and or try to scale and grow a team might want to rewind that and listen to that a couple more times.
You definitely should play that over and over and over again, and probably reach out to Joel and ask questions because for clarity's sake, it's absolutely it's fascinating. So there's fundamentally some challenges with the model there, and at a certain point, you saw us make the move over to EXP, and at that time, I don't know what, if what you saw or didn't see in terms of the model, but at some point, something caught your attention, with the model. And why don't you talk a little bit about what that was and what problem maybe you saw it maybe solving?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that caught our eye was just the people, watching you do these interviews and, these are not the agents who are joining the teams, the brokers who are joining. They're not the agents who chase shiny objects and, think that they're going to switch brokerages every year because the comp plan's better. It's my broker's fault. It's not my fault that I'm not successful.
Right.
These agents and teams that are switching these are savvy business people, many of whom have built, $1 million teams or brokerages, and they're switching. Why would they want to do that? Especially for me, what were eye-catching were the independents who were switching over because, after I left my previous company, we started a new independent brokerage right away. I was the broker, and it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to run a small brokerage these days, and we kept all of the money. We were perfectly happy with it. So not only why are these teams switching, that was easier for me to wrap my head around. Well, it's just, a better comp plan or or whatever. Why are these teams switching? But why are these independents switching over? So that was the first thing that was just really eye catching, is just the caliber and the quality of agents and leaders. Many of whom I've known personally through the mastermind group. Why? Albie, you guys. Why is Gadosh switching over? You just can't. I couldn't ignore that. So I was forced because of that to really start looking at it. And then, the thing that made us finally make the switch, two kind of principles that I'm trying to make a part of my decision making. The first one was just looking at the upside potential versus the downside risk. Reading Ray Dalio's book, Warren Buffett, Richard Branson, all these guys who are sort of famous for being these big risk takers. If you talk to them, they describe themselves as risk mitigators, not risk takers. They're always looking to get a massive return, a massive upside potential with no risk. So that was the first thing that we said, all right, EXP is offering something that nobody else is offering. There's, the equity program, there's revenue share, there's a ton of collaboration. What's the best case scenario? And the best case scenario is life-changing. And the worst case scenario is we're a real estate team selling houses still. That's it. Like, that is the worst case scenario, is we're selling houses again, and we paid a little bit in cap this year, and that's fine. So that was a big one for us, is the upside is so big, the downside is so small. And then for us, it was my partner and I in the real estate team getting really clear on the goal. You pounded this into my head, both of you guys, like, what's the goal? What's the goal? Is that really the goal? And when we started our team, my partner had grown a team up to $500,000 in GCI. I had helped grow a team up to $2 million. We couldn't gear up to rebuild what we had already built and then not been happy with. So we started our small brokerage, and we said, there's got to be something else out there. There's got to be something that we can figure out, that we could learn, that we could create, that's going to, give us what we ultimately want without having to do things the way that, we did them before. So for my partner, that meant he doesn't want to sell homes forever. He's been selling for 17 years. He loves coaching. He loves training. He loves investing in people, and he doesn't want to sell houses forever. Well, that was one of his big things. I have a lifestyle that I want for my wife and I, and for our family, that gives me more freedom to travel. I want to have a great life for my family, and then I love the same thing that he does too. I love the people side of it, way more than I used to, and that's what's really fulfilling now for me. So we said there's got to be a way to do it without building the team again, right? So when we first made the decision to switch, the decision was primarily revenue share for us. This could be the path to getting Seth, my partner, out of production without us having to build a team to the point where he can get out of production, if we do it right, which we all know is not that easy to get out of production. So truthfully, the reason we switched was almost exclusively revenue share. And Jay, you had said, after 6 months, what have we kind of learned? And the reasons why we're really excited about EXP right now, it's not just because of revenue share. Even though that was the reason we switched, I'm so glad we did, but not just because of revenue share. And getting back to your original question about alignment, is there's a fundamental misalignment in the traditional team model. And contract to close can take it only so far, and leads in a CRM can take it only so far, and a great culture and great leadership can only take it so far. But what I believe now, after seeing EXP and after the experiences I had, was we were covering up the misalignment. We weren't solving the misalignment. And we covered it up at a high level, and we covered it up for a long time. But at the end of the day, the misalignment was still there with how are we going to get what we want as business owners and what we want for a company, and how are the agents, going to get what they want. And at the end of the day, it's more money, because they have their own goals too. And it's not just contract to close and leads and accountability. So there's a fundamental misalignment in the team model, and we certainly had it in our company. And so the reason I'm so excited about EXP now is there's so much alignment on so many levels. We are such a collaborative company. We're a collaborative group. That was one of the things that surprised me. There's a ton of alignment in everybody wanting each other to succeed. There's alignment at the fundamental, level of the business model where you're incentivizing, what you want to happen. You're giving people no reason to ever leave, incentivizing recruiting, incentivizing production, incentivizing collaboration. There's cultural elements to the Icon program, not just production components. I love that. And I can take EXP out in my marketplace and talk to great agents who maybe I would never want to be on a team with. Maybe we don't even like each other that much, but there's so much alignment because I want them to succeed. They want me to succeed. And it's fixed the misalignment instead of just covering it up like we were always doing before. And so, for us, in response to that, we've totally changed our structure with our team. And I love it because I feel like this is what we were searching for.
Yeah.
Of like, what's that thing that's going to help us all get what we want, help our agents get what we want. Like, we say that we are investing in our people, but we still don't want them to leave for a better opportunity, right? We still want them to stay on our team. But now we've restructured our real estate team. And for lack of a better word, we're calling it a farm system where I think you should be out on your own with EXP because I think the opportunity is that good. We're creating with you guys, with our group here locally, we're creating the best parts of a team anyway. We have accountability here locally for the people who want it. We've got a ton of collaboration. It's so energizing. I'm talking to people who are not on my team all the time, every week. So that dynamic that you get on a team that's so healthy, we're recreating that anyway. And then with the farm system, again, we think you should be out on your own. So if you're not ready to make that leap, if you came from a team, if you're newer in the business, come join our team for 6 months, for a year. We'll teach you what we know. We'll invest in you. We'll coach you. We'll buy you leads if that's something that you need to help with that transition. But ultimately, the goal for us now is not how long can we keep our agents. Our goal is how quick can we get them out the door to be on their own so they can have the business that they want. We don't want you to help us build our business. We're going to build our business through the power of the network that we're developing here. That's our big play. Our big play is not, just selling homes. Our big play is let's build something really special here together. But you don't have to give up anything to be a part of that. So we're not taking high splits on people's personal deals. We don't actually take anything. We're just getting enough to cover our hard costs from an agent, investing our time and energy and experience in these agents. And like I said, it's not how long we can keep them now. It's how fast we can get them out the door and on their own.
Yep. I absolutely love this discussion. And to be honest, I don't know that we've ever had anybody really truly unpack this business model and what we saw all along was the best way, the problem it really solved. And when it comes down to, if you're watching this and you have a team or you're an independent, everybody first has to understand the way that our teams generally got built. This isn't 100% everybody, but it's 90% probably. Was we got buyer agents because we were busy enough that we were on listing appointments and we were basically burning the candle at both ends and wanted to get buyers off our plate. So we brought in buyer agents, and the buyer agents were meant to be just that, buyer agents, working the buy side of the business. It was never intentional in the business model to have buyer agents and then also have them doing listings and providing, teaching them what we did ultimately to be successful as real estate, entrepreneurs. We didn't ever intend to teach them how to get listings the way we did with what we spent our time doing in the business. And we wanted to give them the buy side of the business. So, the nature of that relationship in and of itself is not in alignment with their best interests. Right. And that's the problem. That's the team model. That's how the team model was developed. And that's how it evolves, over time. And that in and of itself is the problem. And ultimately we all make some tweaks and shifts and try to make, make some exceptions here and there. And then we change the rules. Okay, fine. You want your picture on the sign. Fine. We'll put your picture on the sign. Yep. We try to, what all different ways we can try to become more aligned. and we go home, we leave our offices if we ever leave them, if we don't sleep on the couch at the office,
Right.
we go home and we say we would do anything for our agents, at least publicly we say that, what I'm saying? We probably go home and say, I want to kill them all. Because it's so draining every day to really genuinely be trying to help them become successful. But that the business model doesn't work if you teach them on the listing side or give them higher splits. So you feel like you're doing everything you can to make them successful. And in most cases, you feel like I took you from making $30,000 a year to $200,000 a year, and you want more. How could you? And that becomes the narrative inside inside our mind of the situation. When in reality, if you started from scratch without a team and you weren't in production and it wasn't required, you weren't in this chaos when you started building this team.
Right.
You would have a different conversation with if somebody came to you and they said, somebody that was a family member came to you and they're getting into real estate in a different state, and they asked you, what would you do to become successful in real estate? You've obviously had a lot of success. You would tell that person something completely different than hiring a buyer agent, work the buy side of the business on a 50-50 split and, call leads. Here, I'm going to generate these leads, which is never what we did. We didn't start with a platform and some leads of people that didn't know who we were. That's not what we did, but we bought that stuff. We made the calls, proved it could be done. Now it's your turn. You got to do that. So, the fundamental, model is just not in alignment with the success of a real estate agent. And what you're doing, Joel, and what I love about what you stated earlier, actually before we got on, was like, my goal is to have you on our team as short a time as possible. We're going to measure our success at EXP by how quickly we can launch someone to become their own full capping agent at EXP, and they're paying us nothing because there's a bigger opportunity in this business model by creating a network of agents that are all empowered to help one another and to grow this, big, not just locally, but nationally. And that's, the little bit of revenue share that creates is a bigger opportunity. And now I'm in full alignment to help you and to help you be successful, not just do the right things in the right order in terms of building a true real estate business, but it's also, I have an incentive to help you create passive income because you're my responsibility and my opportunity. And I think that is the most amazing thing about this company is the opportunity for you to be successful at EXP is also my responsibility. And so I only gain if you gain. And when you come join us at EXP, that's the relationship that we're going to have. And that is where the alignment lives. And that's, it's just a special model, man. You have to have gone through a lot to see it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it feels like, the three of us are here going, man, what a brilliant, Glenn is brilliant. Glenn Sanford, you're brilliant.
Yep.
I don't think most people really have experienced enough to realize how incredibly different this is once you become a part of it, especially with the right group of people that get it and understand the opportunity and how adding value to each individual, helping them be more successful as real estate agents and helping them build passive income, earn the ownership and the stock awards along the way. How much more valuable that is than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, I love it, man. I remember being on a call with you a couple of years ago. You guys were, still working partner. We were talking about phantom stock and great game of business from Jack Stack, reading, trying to figure out what's something else we can do to add value to our teams, and we were talking about stock programs. And again, it's like one more thing that we have, you feel pushed to add value. You want to because you want good things for your team, like you said. But again, that's just such a piece of the misalignment,
Right. Yeah. I never would have, have dreamed that, this business model. I just never would have put it all together. There was never, the clarity of how to execute it, and the dollars that have been freed up by being a cloud-based company. And that hundreds of millions in the model that allow you to reward the agents that help grow the company. Everything that was done, Glenn did was just brilliant. And I'm just in awe of that. Of how brilliant it was what he's built here, and it's so fun to be a part of it. And obviously the last 6 months, you guys have been having a lot of fun. I think what you're doing is brilliant, and anybody that's in Milwaukee or anywhere near you should be reaching out to you and find out, how to get involved and get their questions answered as it relates to EXP.
Yeah, I love it.
Anything else, John, you want to add before we finish off and sign off?
Man, I just appreciate Joel taking the time with us today and really unpacking it better than anybody has, and just understanding the model and definitely adding tremendous value for sure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure, Joel. It's always an intellectually stimulating conversation when we talk to you. And so thank you for that. And once again, definitely reach out to Joel and ask questions, or you can reach out to us either way. But yeah, we want to help you with your business, and no better place to be than EXP.
That's right. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
See you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.